Good morning, everyone. We are on a 2-hour delay, which means we missed our faculty meeting. I know you're all disappointed, but there were some things that I needed to share with you at the faculty meeting, and so I'm going to take advantage of the technology. Once again, I'm going to use Edpuzzle to present some information to you regarding our MTSS program and how it all works together, particularly PBIS and interventions and supports, I can talk, and the PBIS app and how we're using information there. Because it is my hope that at the end of the video, you see that all three tiers are deeply connected together. So again, using a slide that we've seen before, Tier 1 works for all students. All students receive any intervention, any support, any policy, any practice that is addressing all students is a Tier 1 support. So that includes instructional practice, policies, our school-wide goals, our expectations that we preach to students, instructional practices that go to everyone. These are all Tier 1 practices. We have spent a lot of time talking about this document here in terms of PBIS and using our pirate prizes and our warnings to help students reach expectations. And we met in December during your prep periods, and we talked about how it begins with behavior-specific praise, letting students know that my video is getting time out. Letting students know what is expected of them in the clearest of terms, how it connects with our three school-wide goals, and as they demonstrate that expectation to you, it's important to recognize it, use those pirate prizes to your advantage on that front. For those students who don't demonstrate early that they understand the expectation or their unwillingness maybe to meet that expectation, we're going to stop, we're going to reteach. We're not going to let them develop a poor habit. We're going to address it while the problem is still small. And in a relatively short time, this is not something you want to go weeks and weeks. If the pirate prizes and the behavior-specific coaching isn't working, give them the warning. As you can see in the updated version of this document, pointing over here, if the pirate prizes and the modeling and the reteaching is not working, give that warning. Do not wait weeks and weeks. It should be a period of days where we've used the positive approaches, and now we're formally documenting that we're having an issue appearing in class by giving them the warning. And then you go back, if they come in the next day and demonstrate that desired behavior, awesome. Pirate prize, praise, all of those things. We may have to go to a second warning, okay? And as we talk about in December, I know it's not a popular step. No one wants to talk to anyone when their child's not meeting expectations. But again, the goal here is to be proactive and bring in the parent as a partner while the problem is still relatively new and small. So we're going to notify the parent. We're going to say, hey, mom, dad, this is what I'm seeing. Can you give me some insights? Can you give me some help? How do you work with your child at home when they're not meeting expectations? Then we're asking, with this in year 2 here, we've added the SAIL program and we've added some Tier 2 interventions. So that's where that request for assistance happens. So hand in glove, the parent phone call and the request for assistance should be filled out that time. Now that is not a stopping point. We're going to continue to reteach, we're going to continue to model, and we're going to continue to use pirate prizes, and if need be, we're going to go to a warning. Now, if that is the third warning, at that time you're going to fill out a referral, because that is going to demand, as it's outlined in our discipline policy, a consequence for an accumulation of warnings. So that's an important step. But again, looking back in the framework, that is all Tier 1 support, okay? When that request for assistance is filled out, or there are some other things within our framework that automatically put a student on our Tier 2 team's radar, SAIL is typically that first intervention. We want the students to be able to operate in a Tier 1 framework and not need additional supports that might occur for a student who needs some more intensive intervention. The whole goal of SAIL is to keep students as close to Tier 1 as possible. So as you know by now, the SAIL program, the students are checking in, they're checking out, and they're placed in your rosters within the app to monitor their ability to meet expectations throughout the course of the day, period by period. It is critically important. It is my sincerest hope that one of the takeaways that you receive from the video I shared with you of our SAIL graduates is that they are listening, and that your comments and feedback are landing and helping students find success. It's critically important that we're participating in that process. Another thing that was very enlightening to me, while the students clearly were listening to you and the comments that they shared with me, it's just their deep desire for connection and just a relationship with those around them. As we know, particularly with junior high age students, but particularly students that are at risk, they're going to get their attention one way or the other, right? A lot of it is attention-seeking behavior. So we want to be able to coach them and say, hey, I'm going to give you all the positive praise I can, but you got to meet these expectations over here. And we don't want it to become a much larger problem. That is the whole point of SAIL, is to be proactive and address these problems before they require something that's more intensive, because the students become habituated to acting that way. So that's why those Tier 1 practices are so important. The Pirate Prizes, the warnings earlier in the process, not later. And then your critically important feedback in the SAIL program in the app. So I appreciate your efforts on that. I know we're still missing class periods here and there. We got to make sure that we're working through that. Now, I'm going to draw an important connection here. SAIL is a Tier 2 intervention, but that doesn't mean the work that I do for all students in Tier 1 stops with those students. These go hand in glove. I had a slide that I was going to share during the faculty meeting, but because I'm sharing this in a video and it's got student names on it, I'm not going to. It was a great example of Laura Wells, Amy Ralston gave a student zeros on their SAIL feedback form. Okay, so in the app, the student received zeros. The student also on that day received warnings by both of them. So that should not be a uncommon thing. If a student is continuing to not meet expectations in the SAIL program, you're also still going to be giving them warnings. All of this data comes to us at Tier 2 level and as a committee, as well as an administrative staff, and helps us understand, well, this may be a candidate who needs some further interventions. Also, before I move past SAIL, let's talk specifically about those students who are meeting expectations at SAIL. That means that they are showing us they are capable of meeting expectations by simply working within the Tier 1 framework. Okay, so they're showing that in SAIL, they met their daily points over a period of time. Tier 1 can work for them. I've had both students and teachers. You saw Shelby at the end of the video say, can I go back in to SAIL, because she was so cognizant of those daily goals and she didn't want those zeros. I've also had teachers say, can we keep this student in there because it's working for them? I'm afraid that if they step out, that's not the point of SAIL. SAIL is not a life sentence. What it's showing us, it's proving us with data that when the students are reminded of the goals and expectations in this framework, that they can meet them. So if I had a student who was in SAIL that was graduating and coming back to me and they're no longer in the app, but I had that concern, or even if I didn't, I would want to have a conversation with that student and say, hey, first and foremost, congratulations. What did you do to meet success in my class and get those points? And remind them of those behaviors and remind them of that they did the work. The behaviors and expectations, the expectations never changed. Their behavior changed. And remind them that they did that work and that they can still continue to do it, and that you're going to reward them. You're going to be side by side with them throughout that journey. Their ADHD isn't going away, or their home life isn't going away, but they can they can meet expectations. SAIL is not a magic bullet. So I know that some of you have talked about, well, SAIL's not working for some students. Well, let's move to talk about those students. We understand that the model shows that only 70% of the students will SAIL work for in and of itself and allow the student to operate at tier one. For the remaining 30%, as we move through this, we may have to modify their check-in and check-out experience. They may need additional checks in the middle of the day, which we've done. We may need to change their goals within SAIL. We need to target some things specific beyond the 3 school-wide goals. We have groups. We had an ADHD group that was very effective. The students referenced how much they appreciated some of the strategies that they heard. And there's always opportunity to add additional groups as the data tells us that's what we need to do. Again, this is all driven by the students and their needs. So tier 2 is a flexible, adaptive process based on what we're getting from you and from them throughout that process. That's why, again, your input is critically important, and the feedback that you're giving the students within the app. Not only are they reading it, listening to it, but we as a tier 2 team are also reading it to help guide the process. And again, all throughout this, pirate prizes and warnings still continue, because it's just part of the overall framework. What I want to end with is something that we finally just came to a decision. And I'm going to be honest, I'm the one that had to change my opinion, because I was afraid of an unintended consequence, that there may be some confusion if we continue to report students' data in SAIL, but they're actually not in SAIL. They're in a tier 3 intervention. And so let me clarify what that said, because I'm sure that was confusing. We are going to continue to use the app to monitor data for some students who may have behavior goals and special ed on their IEP, or different types of behavior plans, but they're not necessarily in SAIL. SAIL is for those students who are trying, 70% who can probably or will be able to operate within their tier 1 supports. But that 30% may be in a variety of spots. So they may not technically be in SAIL, but we're still using the app to collect data for them. And to help with that process, I have that weekly email I send out that I title this week, that I put meetings and events on there. But I'm going to include a link to help you find who those students are specifically at different times on the roster. So if students are graduating from SAIL, I want you to have that. You'll find that in that link. If students are still in SAIL, I want you to make sure that your records are matching up what you see there. But also, if a student has been identified as a student who we're still going to monitor data, but isn't in SAIL, I think it's important that you know that too, because SAIL is working, okay? But again, SAIL is not a magic bullet for all students. So we will have students at these various tiers. And at tier 3, we're looking at behavior plans. We're looking at maybe alternative schedules that you may have them for a couple of periods, that they may have an academic class for a couple of periods. We want data from that. That doesn't, just because we're using the app, that does not necessarily mean the student's in SAIL. So I'm hoping that adds some clarity as to why you're seeing some students who seem to be in it forever. I felt it was a better alternative than having you report into a different system. Since we're already going into the app, we're going to continue to use the app even for students who may be at the tier 3 level. So hopefully I've added some clarity, but I'm also going to end with a open-ended question. Give me your feedback, and what do you still need some help with, so that we can get you your answers. Thank you for your time.